Have you ever heard of imposter syndrome? Has imposter syndrome ever affected your life? Well, no matter how you answer those two questions, this is a great listen. So stay tuned until after the music.
You're about to listen to a great episode of the Laz and B Experience podcast. Within this episode, my hope is that you obtain something that will help you find your success. So grab a pen, get your paper, your favorite snack or drink, and really listen to what I have to say. I truly believe it can be what you need to get you to your next level in life. So grab a seat and enjoy the ride, and I'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back to another episode of the Laz and B Experience podcast. Thank you all for tuning in to yet another episode. I know will be a great help for you when you're looking for your success. So as you all know, I'm going to start this episode, all my individual episodes, with a little story time. And this week I actually have two different stories. So let's get started with the first story. So this first story is when I was the vice chair of Region 4 of NSBE, which stands for the National Society of Black Engineers. I actually got the position because no one ended up running for this position at our national convention, where we hold our elections for regional and national positions. So after the convention, I ended up applying, I interviewed, and got appointed to the position by the newly elected regional board, which was elected at the national convention that year. Now, I took this position very seriously because I really wanted to make sure to give back to this great organization that has done so much for me. But for some reason, I felt like I wasn't doing enough for whatever reason. Now, like around halfway through my term, which is close to actually this time of the year, I decided to have a one-on-one with one of our regional advisors, Dr. Whitney Gaskins, who also I consider to be a mentor and who will also be a guest on my podcast this season. So I'm looking forward to her and what she has to say, and hopefully to help you guys in the future. So I must also mention Dr. Gaskins doesn't sugarcoat anything and tells you how she feels. Now, of course, she doesn't say anything to hurt your feelings or make you feel bad, but she doesn't want to give you false information to make you feel good about yourself. She also doesn't just leave you there. She wants to help you to be successful in whatever area you're trying to be successful in. So she will try and help you to get to where you want to be. So shout out definitely to Dr. Gaskins for that. Now, in our one-on-one, I was kind of nervous because for whatever reason, I felt like I wasn't doing a good job as the Region 4 vice chair. Turns out she thought I was doing a great job. Of course, I'm not perfect. Of course, there's things I can improve on. But for the board, to be on the board of a national student-run organization during a pandemic and making progress, I was definitely doing a great job. Now, during the conversation, I also mentioned that I was interested in still being on the board for the next school year, which was the 2021-2022 school year, which was last school year. And I wanted her opinion on the position that she thought I would be good at. Again, she told me she thought I was doing a great job as the vice chair, and the only other move to really make was to become the chairperson for the region. So in my mind, for some reason, again, I just felt like I wouldn't do well in that position, even though I was doing well in my current position. And it was something that, even before this conversation, position that I wanted to eventually get to within my college career. Unfortunately, I ended up not running for chair for that year, and it wasn't because I didn't feel like I wouldn't do well. I just needed to really focus on other things like finishing up my degree in electrical engineering, which I've been working very hard for and very close to achieving. Not only that, I also still worked full time I was working on this podcast, so there was a lot of other things that I was focusing on, and I didn't want to spread myself too thin, which I kind of sometimes do. So with my second story I want to talk about is with my current job. Similar to the first story, I didn't feel like I was doing well at my current job when I first started, right now over 2 years or almost 2 years ago. So at this job, I am a distribution designer for a third-party company that do work for utility companies. So basically, we work here in Indianapolis. We work with a utility company called AES Indiana. So some of the projects that I've worked on is designing utility poles. Some people call them telephone poles for whatever reason. But they're utility poles that you see around your house or your job or in the neighborhood. And I work on designing them that needs to get replaced because either they need to get new equipment on them, the pole is old and just need to get replaced, or like with my current job or current project where we are replacing the wires, called reconductoring, replacing the wires on the pole, and we have to some of the poles we have to replace all the way because again they're old. But back to when I first started, I felt like I wasn't getting it fast enough, and I felt like I was asking too many questions, and every time my supervisor wanted to talk in his office, some reason I felt like it was quote unquote the talk, like my last talk, like I'm about to get fired or something. So one day I decided, maybe 3 months into the job, I just decided to go to his office and ask him straight up how he felt I was doing. And kind of like how Dr. Gaskins said in my first story, he said I was doing a great job, that I was understanding things faster than I thought I was. And he thought I was asking a lot of great questions. And it's crazy that he said that because one of the things that I've been working on for, at that time, maybe a couple years before then, was to make sure I was asking enough questions, because a previous manager of an internship that I had told me that I needed to work on asking better questions. So it was a good thing that I was actually asking all these questions and trying to understand my job and showing that I have interest in my job. Now, I wanted to tell these two stories because I feel like it's something a lot of people go through, especially African Americans in fields you might not see a lot of us in, like STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, both stories also show that even though I did the work and made the effort, I still felt like I wasn't good enough, something referred to as Imposter Syndrome. And is the topic I will be discussing and hopefully helping you get through in today's episode, if you find yourself feeling or being in that boat now or in the future. So now that I talked about those two stories, let's get into the main topic of today, which is Imposter Syndrome. But before I get into that, I wanted to tell you why I titled this episode Imposter Syndrome Part 1. Now, of course, if you name something Part 1, that means a Part 2 and potentially even a Part 3 is coming after it. And that is the case for this as well. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen this season. It's definitely something that I want to have happen at least by my next season, because again, I think this is a great topic to go over, because I feel like a lot of people go through this. And I want to make sure I get a guest on who have more experience in working with people who are dealing with imposter syndrome and get their expert advice on how to break out of this cycle of imposter syndrome. I still believe this episode is going to be a great one because I have my own experience and my own information through my own journey that I believe can also be of help. And then I also did a little bit of research on my own just to make sure I came correctly with the knowledge and with the information that, again, I believe will help you all be successful. So let's get started with first getting the definition of imposter syndrome. In a Harvard Business Review article, Gil Corkindale defines imposter syndrome as a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persist despite evidence of success. Imposters suffer from chronic self-doubt and a sense of intellectual fraudulence that override any feelings of success or external proof of their competence. Now, the first thing that pops up to me when I read this statement or read this definition is that it's a collection of feelings of inadequacy, which to me means that it's something that happens many, many times. It's not something that just happens once or twice throughout your life or throughout the year. It's actually something that you constantly feel or constantly see throughout your life. It's something that you go through on a probably everyday basis. And then the second thing that pops out to me when I read this is that despite the evidence of success, you still have this imposter syndrome, which to me means you're likely working hard at something and completing it with a successful outcome or with a successful result. You just some reason either glide right past the result or the accomplishment, or you don't really pay it any mind, or you just on to the next project. You don't really kind of take attention to that result. You just finish one thing and then on to the next thing. Now, Gil also said that it doesn't equate to low self-esteem or a lack of self-confidence. In fact, some researchers have linked it with perfectionism, which I will be talking about a little bit later. So the people that probably suffer from imposter syndrome the most are intelligent and high achieving individuals. This is kind of leads me to my next talking point, which is who are the people affected by imposter syndrome the most. Now, I just said the one group, the intelligent and the high achieving, but I want to get into some other smaller subgroups of that, which I think who suffer from imposter syndrome probably the most, who are people who are in spaces, in careers where they don't see a lot of people that look like them. Some examples include African Americans in engineering, or women in engineering, or pretty much any STEM field or construction, or even possible males who are nurses. Like, these are all different people who I believe can suffer from imposter syndrome because they don't see a lot of people who look like them within their career or within their classes. Now, of course, everyone in these subgroups don't go through this, but I bet if there's a study done on who suffer from imposter syndrome the most, it will probably be people from these different types of groups like I just talked about examples of. Now, the reason I feel this way is because for me, I feel when you see yourself entering spaces where you're the only black person, or you're the only Asian person, or you're the only woman, you start to think of why did they select you, or why did you get selected in the first place? Were you selected just because to fill a quota? Did they really think that you deserve to be there? And you really can't really think of it that way. You really got to think of, I'm here because I'm supposed to be here, no matter why they selected you. Because you don't want to go down this rabbit hole of I'm an imposter and I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not smart enough to be here. All these other people are smarter than me. That can just make you feel like you're not supposed to belong, and you do supposed to belong. You do belong where you are right now. If you don't get anything else out of this episode, know that you belong wherever you are right this moment. Another group of people I think who are affected by imposter syndrome the most are people who don't come from success, or who have had a hard life growing up, and they're finally seeing, I guess, the results, or seeing the fruits of their labor. Now, this isn't something that I went through or go through on a daily basis or anything like that. I honestly feel like I had a very blessed life or childhood growing up. But a lot of us know someone who is the first person in their family to go to college, or the first person in their family to graduate from college, or to be the first person to find some like real success. But for some reason they feel like they didn't deserve it, even though they worked hard to get to where they are. Like some people are the first person in their family to make over $100,000, or the first person in their family to have their house or have a house, and you sometimes feel like you don't deserve it, even though again you worked hard to be there, and you shouldn't feel that way. You worked hard, you did what you were supposed to do, you sacrificed. So again, if you don't get anything else out of this episode, know that you deserve whatever you have coming to you. Now let's get into how imposter syndrome can affect your success. Now, the first way I believe imposter syndrome can affect your success is by slowing it down. Every time you feel like you don't deserve something, when you actually do, it can hinder you from moving forward. In some cases, it may make you complacent, knowing that you have the abilities and the skills to achieve more. This will cause you to miss out on a lot of different opportunities that, again, you are more than capable, more than qualified, more than skilled for. So don't let that, again, imposter syndrome slow you down or stop you from going after the opportunities that you want to go after. Like, even if you don't feel like you're qualified for something, still go after it, because you never know what's going to happen until you go after it. Like, if you don't go after it, you always know it's going to be a no. But if you do go after it, it's a potential opportunity that you could get. So go after it. You can do it. I believe in you. Now, from Gil's article that I referenced earlier, imposter syndrome can also be linked to perfectionism, which I talked about. If you never put your work out there or start that business that you've been trying to start for years now, and you're just waiting for, quote unquote, the perfect time, you will be waiting forever. Just like me starting this podcast, I could have never started because I didn't have the equipment that I needed, or I didn't have the guests that I needed, or I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't. If I could have been like, I don't want to start, but I started it because I know, again, I feel like I can give out information that is definitely helpful for pretty much anybody who listens and take in this advice. And of course, there's things I can grow and learn and make better in the future, but I won't be able to make those improvements if I never start, because I'm waiting for that perfect time. The thing is, what you probably have right now, right this moment, is more than enough to get started with your business, or with that passion project, or to start that career that you're interested in starting. There are literally people in this world who are simply successful because they didn't care what others thought or have doubt about their abilities, even though they were or may not have been the smartest person in the room or had the best idea. They just went for it because they felt they had something that was useful, or they wanted to try it, and they didn't let their thoughts stop them from putting their idea out there. And they're successful because of it. They might not have been successful at the beginning, but they're successful along the journey because they're putting themselves out there. They're learning as they grow. They're meeting new people. They're making these new connections because they're putting themselves out there. Now, this may sound weird, but imposter syndrome can cause you to over-prepare. Danielle Page, in her article, How Imposter Syndrome is Holding You Back at Work, said imposter syndrome reinforces the idea that you needed to work extra hard to get to where you are, and you couldn't have been successful otherwise. Now, I know and understand, of course, you need to work hard to be successful, but when I think of overworking or over preparing, I'm thinking of the neglecting of the other things like sleeping and eating and taking care of yourself that also plays a very important part when it comes to your success. This over preparing and overworking will eventually have a negative effect or impact on many things, including your career, your health, and your personal relationships. This can and will also cause you to burn out much quicker and become counterproductive. So, of course, you want to continue working hard. Of course, you want to continue preparing for your success, but you don't want to put it in front of, again, getting the number of hours you need to sleep to be energized. You don't want to put in front of eating and eating healthy. You don't want to put in front of your self-care and being able to have some relaxed time, because those are important things as well to help you be successful, to help you continue on your journey. Because again, if you're only working 24/7 every day of the week, you're going to get that burnout a lot faster, and that recovery time could be a lot harder to get past from a burnout than from you getting that extra 2 hours of sleep. So now let's get into probably the most important part of this episode, which is how to overcome imposter syndrome. Now, to be honest, I still deal with imposter syndrome from time to time, but I feel like I'm getting a lot better at it every day. Now, one thing that's helping me get over imposter syndrome is simply telling myself that I'm proud of myself whenever I accomplish a goal that I actually set for myself. Now, it may be little and it may sound weird at first, but it's really, for me, starting to become something that I naturally do every day, every time I accomplish a goal of mine. Like every time I finish recording an episode, I'm telling myself I'm proud of myself. Every time I check something off my checklist, whether it has to do with work, whether it has to do with school, whether it has to do with this podcast, I am like in my head telling myself, and sometimes even out loud telling myself, that I'm proud of myself. And these little things turn into something a lot bigger to help me get over even bigger hurdles as I'm going through my success. So just because it starts small doesn't mean it has to stay small when you're using these kind of statements of like, I'm proud of myself, or good job, or anything that's kind of positive for yourself. Definitely you should be doing it and saying it to yourself. Having self affirmations, those are also definitely helpful, that can help you when it comes to imposter syndrome and getting over imposter syndrome. Now, another way is starting to write down your accomplishments as soon as they happen, in or when someone you hear, when others say like congratulations to you. Now, this can help you when you're feeling less than, or if you feel like you're not accomplishing what you should be accomplishing. A quick look at this list, especially when it's starting to grow, when you're starting to build that list, can definitely help imposter syndrome and really stop it in its tracks. Like talking self-affirmations, talking positive to yourself, writing down your accomplishments. These are all things that, again, seem small or seem like they won't have a big impact on your life. But once you start getting that into like a regular routine, once you start seeing the results from it, you will be like, okay, I'm going to continue doing this because it's actually helping me. Now, another great way to also get over imposter syndrome is to ask someone you closely work with and someone you trust their opinion of you, how they feel that you are doing in the area that you're working on. If possible, I definitely go to someone like a supervisor or a manager or even a professor, someone who oversees like your work and the things that you do. Like I did with my current manager, I went to his office and asked him directly how he thought I was doing, and he gave me his honest opinions. Now, of course, I wasn't perfect at everything, but it definitely helped me kind of erase some of this negative talk that I was giving or talking to myself, and it made me see things as they are. Now, these are the people who shouldn't have a problem telling you the truth, because the truth is only going to benefit them and the team that you're working on. Again, they are also the people going to tell you things that you also need to work on. So make sure you celebrate the wins, but you also continue to work on the improvement areas. Now, if you're a little nervous to go face to face with your manager or with a supervisor or with a professor, you can always send them an email and ask them for their feedback, and then they can get back to you either through email and give you that feedback, or they can set up a time to actually talk in person. And I mean, you have to kind of get over not being able to go to them or getting feedback from others, because that's only going to hinder you from finding your success. So definitely, if you need to start off with emailing, or if you're that close, texting, or maybe it's not face to face, any other form of communication, doing that first and then having them come to you, or having them respond that's not face to face, like an email or a text or anything like that, can definitely help. But start working towards being able to ask those questions in person and face to face, because those, I think, can give you the best results. Now, this kind of leads me to my last point of discussion, which is who can provide guidance. So who are the people you can go to help you get over imposter syndrome? So I talked a little bit about this, getting feedback from your supervisor and someone who oversees work that you accomplished. Now, these are great people because you don't have to necessarily ask them directly how to get over imposter syndrome. You really just need to get the feedback on your performance, and they will let you know the good as well as the things that you can improve on. Another great person to go to is a mentor. I talk about mentorship a lot, and I will have an episode all about mentorship in the future. But I think going to a mentor who also doesn't sugarcoat anything is also a great person to go to. Like I said, with my mentor, Dr. Gaskins, she told me exactly how she felt. We even kind of talked about imposter syndrome and how it was affecting me at that time as well. Now, these are people that you can directly ask about imposter syndrome and how to get over imposter syndrome. And they can either give you advice and tips on how to do it, or they can give you resources to help you, like maybe someone they know can help you, or maybe they know some books that you can read, or some articles that you can read, or even a podcast that you can listen to. But they're there to help you. Hopefully, if you call them a mentor, they are there to guide you and help you through any kind of situation, including imposter syndrome. Now, lastly, you can go to a therapist. The only reason I put this last is because not everyone has the means to a therapist. But if you do, I think you should definitely go and get one. These are an outside voice who holds no judgment towards you and is literally only there to help you through your problems. And if you're going through imposter syndrome, they can help you get through it. They can also help you see things in ways that probably you never even thought of. So they always ask probably the best questions so you can understand what you're going through and why you're going through it. And if one doesn't work, you can always find another one. It's not like it's set in stone of your therapist. You can always find someone after the first try, after the 5th try, after the 10th try, after the 100th try. You can continue looking for the right therapist until you find the right therapist. Now, no, you can also always go to your own research. You can read books, you can read articles, you can listen to podcasts to help you. But I honestly think having someone you can talk to one-on-one, face-to-face will help you individually the best, again, in my opinion. But you start where you feel comfortable and get help when you see fit. And those are my thoughts and opinions of imposter syndrome, which I hope was very helpful. But before I let you go, As always, during my individual episodes of this season, I have a challenge of the week I would love for you to participate in. So the challenge of the week this week, whether you're dealing with or suffering from imposter syndrome or not, I challenge you to start writing down your accomplishments. It can be something you write in a notebook, or if you can have a journal, you can write it in the notes on your phone like I do. If you have a stone tablet, you can write it on that as well, as long as it's somewhere you can access easily. I think this is a great way to not only help you with imposter syndrome, but to also understand and believe in your self-worth and build your self-esteem. This can also help a lot with other things, like when it comes to negotiating your salary when you're looking for a new job, or even asking for a raise at your current job, figuring out your different passions and passion projects, and a host of other things. So whenever you accomplish a milestone or a project, take some time, write it down, be descriptive, and then keep it close so you can have it whenever you need it. And those are my tips, those are my ideas, and that is my challenge of the week for you this week, which I hope will help you for your future. Again, thank you for listening to another episode of the Lazen Be Experience podcast. I really hope you were able to gain something that you can use to help you along your journey. Like always, if you like what you heard today, please don't hesitate to like, share, comment, and subscribe so I can know that you're not just listening but enjoying the content. If you have questions, if you have comments, topic ideas, or even guest ideas, please don't hesitate to either email me at lazenbeexperience@gmail.com or on any social media platform that you may follow me on. Remember, seasons 1 and seasons 2 are also still available on all platforms to listen where you listen to podcasts, and that's including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts at the Lazen Be Experience podcast. Lastly, for all my readers, I have a blog that covers every episode, which can be found at lazenbeexperience.wordpress.com. Also within this blog, you'll be able to find articles from season 2, as well as articles from before I even had a podcast. So there's a lot of great content out there for you to listen to. Again, thank you for listening to yet another great episode of the Lazen Be Experience podcast. And as always, until next time, continue your journey until you reach your success.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Lazen Be Experience podcast. I really hope you were able to receive valuable information that will help you take actionable steps to get you closer to achieving your goals. If this is true for you, I would really appreciate it if you share this episode with others, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to continue receiving updates on new episodes. I truly am excited about how my experience, the Lazen Be Experience, can make a difference in your life. Again, thank you for listening to the Lazen Be Experience podcast, and until next time, continue your journey until you reach your success.